This camp holds 1,000 asylum seekers, and it sits right next to a small Irish town called Naas, where 26,000 people call home. But this isn't the only camp. Camps like these are springing up all across Ireland, bringing in thousands of unknown men, many of whom could be dangerous. Later in this video, I'll break down why these men pose a threat and why we know next to nothing about them. This bizarre process is costing Irish taxpayers millions every single day. In the first 3 months of 2024 alone, a mind-blowing 430 million was spent to accommodate these asylum seekers. What's going on here? Did the Irish people agree to this? Did anyone even ask them? How do they feel about their communities being transformed overnight? I have been following this for years, and in this video, I'm going to unravel the shocking, hard to believe situation unfolding right now in Ireland. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of what's really happening, and I guarantee you'll be stunned by what you learn. For as long as I can remember, wars have existed, but I've never seen anything like this. Concentration-styled camps springing up all across Ireland. Now, I know calling them concentration camps might raise a few eyebrows, but hear me out. A concentration camp, also known as an internment camp, is defined as a place where people are confined, usually without hearings, often under harsh conditions, typically because they're being identified by the government as dangerous and undesirable. Some might disagree with me labelling this way, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. Here's another thing I've noticed. In every video I've watched of these camps, I haven't seen a single woman. It makes sense. Imagine being a woman surrounded by strange men in a tense, unpredictable situation. These camps are designed like military fortresses. High walls, tight security, and locals aren't given any information about them. If this doesn't make you feel uneasy, it should. But trust me, it gets even stranger. These camps are big business. Housing asylum seekers has drained billions from the Irish taxpayer in just a few years. And where's this money going? Straight into the pockets of the wealthy elite. While ordinary citizens are grappling with a cost of living crisis, skyrocketing energy prices, and an increasing risk of poverty. A recent IPOS B&A survey revealed that 62% of people are just getting by, while 1 in 5 are outright struggling. Another survey conducted by Amarak Research found that 67% of respondents personally know a small business that has had to close down in the last year. Meanwhile, one of these elites, Seamus McKinney, owns 14 companies that benefit from taxpayer money to house these asylum seekers, and hotels across Ireland are following suit, filling their rooms with asylum seekers instead of tourists. In the west of Ireland alone, over a third of the entire hotel capacity is taken up by asylum seekers. This has decimated local businesses that rely on tourism, especially during the peak seasons. It's a system that's designed to fail the average person while the rich keep getting richer. Even from a humanitarian standpoint, that 430 million spent this year in the first 3 months could have provided clean water to 25 million people in Africa. Every day, more than 800 children under 5 years of age die by contaminated water, poor sanitation, and unsafe hygiene practices. But instead, that money is being funneled from the pockets of the ordinary citizens into the hands of the already wealthy. This is a system imposed on us by the government, and it's of no benefit to the Irish people. Immigration is a complex issue. If it's done right, it can be good. It can benefit both immigrants and the state. But what's happening now? Ireland is being overwhelmed by numbers we cannot sustain or integrate safely. I believe this is happening by design, and I'm about to show you why. Our Justice Minister, Helen McEntee, has given visas to asylum seekers, essentially allowing people from the UK come to Ireland for better opportunities.
Around 15 years, when I hear about Ireland and I hear about the Justice Minister in Ireland, they open for everyone to get a visa for asylum seeker.
And Roderick O'Gorman, our Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, sent out tweets in 8 different languages, encouraging people to come to Ireland, promising them own-door accommodation. Since 2021, the funding for his department has increased by almost $6 billion to facilitate this influx. The year after he sent those tweets, asylum applicants shot up by 500%, and they're still rising. Does this seem fishy to you yet? In 2024, the Irish government, backed by the mainstream media, launched a campaign to change the definition of family in our constitution to include the fake term durable relationships. Suddenly, this was the biggest issue we faced in Ireland, something most people hadn't even heard of until then. What they didn't tell us is how this change could have drastically increased the number of people entering Ireland through asylum and family reunification laws. Instead, what Helen McKenty did is go on national TV and lie to the Irish public, stating this would have no effect on immigration.
When speaking about this referendum, that it has serious consequences, particularly when we think of immigration law and proving that someone is a family member or in cases of family reunification, that it will have consequences.
So our immigration law is set out by government. The family reunification law that we have at the moment is very clear and it's very narrow for specific reasons. It's between a parent and a child. That's not going to change because of this referendum.
So Neil Richmond was wrong there, was he?
Well, yes, because this is not going to change the laws that we have now. There are not going to be suddenly an influx of people coming saying that they now have a different application that they can apply here, because the law is very clear.
Thanks to documents released under Freedom of Information, we now know that senior officials in the Department of Justice were deeply concerned about this. Even though Helen knew about this, she went on TV and lied to everyone about it. They warned that amending Article 41 of the Constitution to include non-marital families would make it nearly impossible to maintain a functional immigration system. One case that stands out involved one individual attempting to bring over 70 people he knew through family reunification laws. Had this amendment passed, we could have seen countless cases like this. Despite massive media campaigns and political pressure, the Irish public saw through the lies and overwhelmingly voted against this. Thankfully, any changes to the Constitution must be through a public vote, a referendum. Otherwise, we wouldn't get a say. The government would do it anyway. But you have to ask yourself, why? Why would the government push a change that would worsen an already overwhelming immigration crisis? Why did all the political parties agree on something the Irish people clearly didn't want? Across Ireland, huge protests are erupting against this type of immigration. There have been 31 arson attacks on these centres, a clear sign that the Irish people are growing angrier by the day. This doesn't just harm the country, it creates resentment towards legal immigrants who contribute to society, stoking tensions that never needed to exist. Yet it continues regardless. Every time a new camp is announced, protests follow. Mothers, fathers, elderly, they're all standing outside these camps, demanding answers. How many men are brought in? Where are they from? How long will they stay? But instead of receiving answers, they're met with riot squads, pepper spray, and arrest. The media labels them as far-right extremists, even though they're simply concerned citizens seeking the truth. Does this sound like a normal response to a concerned community? The world has always faced wars, but never before have we seen this type of response. Military-style camps, tent cities popping up in Dublin, drugs being sold openly, and women and children facing new risks in their own neighbourhood. All for what? Are we to believe this is just total incompetence when they actively try to make the situation we face worse? We cannot perform background checks on these individuals. The public has been informed that the majority of refugees who come from outside the Schengen zone cannot be vetted. Now imagine importing hundreds of people whose backgrounds are completely unknown and placing them directly into the communities of the people you're supposed to represent, despite those same people voicing concerns about their safety and making it clear they don't want them. In one particular alarming case, there are plans to move 300 asylum seekers into the same building as an all-girls high school. These men, with no background checks, have nothing to do all day since they are unable to work. They will be standing around watching as young girls go to and from school. Would you feel safe for your daughter in this situation? Just recently, an Algerian migrant stabbed 3 young children, ages 6 and under. Another attacked and sexually assaulted a young Irish woman just 5 days after entering the country. Some of the immigrants being allowed into the country are fugitives, wanted for crimes in their own nations.
What reasons, if you don't mind me asking?
How did you want it?
Okay, yeah.
Yet, not only are we letting them in without checks, we are housing them alongside vulnerable teenage girls. So how does this make you feel? And here's the thing, this immigration crisis isn't just happening in Ireland. It's spreading across Europe and even in the United States, with 8 to 10 million having entered in just 4 years under Biden. The question we all need to ask is why now? How did the West shift from responsible immigration policies to an open border free-for-all, completely disregarding the best interests of the people they represent? In places like New York City, illegal immigrants are being handed $10,000 credit cards, free accommodation and free healthcare.
You're on pace to spend $5 billion on migrant care in this fiscal year. To give people some perspective, that is more than the city spends on sanitation, parks, and the fire department combined. So you're asking for money here. Do I have that right?
A combination, more than money, because the faucet is flowing. We have to stop the faucet.
While citizens can't even access these benefits and are left struggling. In California, undocumented migrants are being offered housing loans with 0 down payment, a benefit that many of the state's own citizens can't even access. Why would anyone bother to go through the legal immigration system when the alternative offers so many more perks? It's a system that rewards those who break the law while leaving law-abiding citizens to fend for themselves. So ask yourself this, why would anyone choose to go through the legal measures? It's a shocking reality that governments are prioritizing illegal immigrants over their own people. But why? What's driving an open border agenda? And how does it serve the best interests of the citizens that they are supposed to represent? Is it naive to believe that something more sinister isn't at play here? Will future generations look back at us and wonder how we didn't see it coming? Or will this chapter in history be conveniently left out of the history books altogether? By now it's clear this isn't about empathy. If it were, the 430 million could have been spent on providing clean water and saving lives in countries that need it the most. Instead, we see this money being funneled into the hands of the wealthy elite. The government has actively encouraged asylum seekers to flood into Ireland, despite overwhelming evidence that this is against the best interests of the Irish people. So why are they doing this? One possibility is that they're pushing for globalization, a deliberate attempt to blur national borders and weaken local identities. By fundamentally changing communities, they might be trying to erode national unity and create civil unrest, which allows for greater control and manipulation. Another reason could be financial. The government and elites may simply be getting paid to push this agenda, prioritizing their own wealth over the well-being of their citizens. The European Union could also be pressuring Ireland to become more diverse as part of their broader political agenda, aiming to reshape the demographics of Europe. Studies have shown that communities with rapidly increasing diversity often experience negative consequences. Research has demonstrated that the more diverse communities tend to be less trusting, have lower voter turnout, and suffer from higher crime rates. Instead of fostering harmony, forced demographic change can breed division and instability. When you look at all these facts, it becomes increasingly clear that it is not about helping people or improving society. So the question remains, if it's not empathy, if it's not competence, and if it's not benefiting the people, then what's really, truly driving this agenda?